Hello everyone, it's Jay here from the Training Court podcast, a Pokemon TCG podcast bringing you anything and everything Pokemon TCG related. If you are looking for Pokemon TCG competitive decks ready to go, including GLC decks, please head over to pokedex4u.com. Pokedex4u has a variety of decks ready for sale, with each deck being fully customizable and bespoke to your needs. Use the code Training Court TCG for 5% off your first order. Now let's get on to the episode. Hello everyone and welcome to the Training Court TCG podcast, a Pokemon TCG podcast about anything and everything Pokemon TCG related. Jay here, and I'm joined by my fellow co-hosts Andy, Kath and Alex, and one of our favourite guests, Joe from OmniPoke. Hello.
Hello, thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining. Again, no favoritism, by the way, but yeah, I did call you the Oracle in the last podcast. I also did call you the Oracle in our last recording, so yes, so no pressure. But yeah, no, well, thanks again for joining us. Given that obviously you've been on before, we won't do kind of the in-depth Q&A that we did last time. So, but I thought it'd be good just to catch up with you to really see what you've been up to lately. Obviously, there's a lot of content coming out on your channel, really good high quality content, and also what you've been up to yourself in the actual competitive sphere.
Yeah, so I played Lille. I played Miraidon in Lille, and that was mostly because I was so focused on Paradox content that I had no time to do other stuff.
Yeah.
Literally straight after Lille, Jack and I, all the testing games you're seeing come out on the channel, that's what we were doing in the week. We were both working. He was working from home at my place, and we were just in the evenings bashing out a ton of games and coming up with concepts together. We actually built the lists like a week before Lille, and we had a little weekend in Cardiff playing at another friend's house. So we've been playing the new format simultaneously with the standard, which is kind of tough sometimes, and that's why I defaulted back to a kind of easier to play deck in Miraidon. I got points out of the tournament, but I whiffed day 2, so it is what it is. But the deck felt like the right choice for me for the weekend. And basically it's just more Paradox from here on out, basically.
Okay, I mean, just sticking with Lille just for a short, brief moment, if you had a bit more time, what deck do you reckon you would have gone with?
So it's actually bittersweet because I was really racking my brains about Gudra in the build up to the tournament. And
I did see videos leading up to it, yeah.
So I was Hermione's 59 cards, and he's obviously top 8'd not only Lille, but then top 8'd Toronto, which I think we'll talk about in a moment. So yeah, really bittersweet that I didn't have the courage to like stick with all the time, I guess, to stick with Gudra, because I just wasn't tested enough with it, but I really respected its matchup spread. And I think I still have some cuts before we can play Paradox Rift, so I think I'll probably be playing the Goo for those.
Okay, yeah, no, I like the Goo. I took it to EUIC, but I didn't do very well with it, so it's been a bit again bittersweet for me. But I think it's actually perfectly situated in this format. Actually, to be fair, I think it's I really like it, and it was the Lost Box engine as well, wasn't it? So wasn't there was an arc? I believe obviously there was an arc variant on stream as well. So that was interesting. One of the lists I want to discuss again briefly on Lille, again sticking with Lille, and it's one that you actually got to see up close and personal. Yeah, straight away. You knew straight away. We spoke about it last week of the podcast, but Mateus's list. Basically, I don't know if it's not really Guardi. It's Benetti X with a Guardi engine. How did you find that coming up against such a rogue deck, really?
Yeah, it was tough. I knew I was in for a game as soon as he flipped over a Shuppet. So I was like, he's not stopped playing Vikavolt, basically. He's still found a way to still play Item Lock.
Yeah.
I ended up losing a fairly long first game, and it was mostly because I was still discovering what was going on in his deck. Of all things, it was the Calamitous Wasteland that got me, because I had set up a Raichu end game to finish out 2 prize cards, but he went for an Iono plus Wasteland combo, and it meant that my Flying Pikachu, my Squawk with 1 energy, and my Miraidon with 1 energy all didn't become pivot outs, and I didn't draw a card from Iono to turn attach on any of those cards to retreat, because I could go Tandem Unit Raichu, double Flaffy to close out my game. So I didn't need any cards in hand to win until he went Wasteland combo. So then I ended up having to use Motivate with Squawk, and then like from there he was able to like do cool Alakazam shenanigans to win a prize race just by attacking with the EX. So he just needed that 1 turn to pivot into an aggro deck, because I was playing such low HP stuff. But as soon as I saw what was in his deck, I felt like my matchup was actually pretty good against him. And as long as you're being careful like banking energies on flaffies rather than attackers, so you don't get trapped. It's actually okay for Miraidon, so I did manage to squeak out a tie there. But super cool deck, and he's a really, really good player. Like, it was the only game of the day where I felt I was thoroughly outplayed for like a good 45 minutes. I was like, wow, this is tough. He's playing a different game to me, basically.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw it on stream, I think everyone over Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, everyone was just going, I'm watching Burnett EX on stream. No one could believe it. I did build that deck and tried it on live, and my God, is it a difficult deck to play? So there's a lot of credit goes to Mateus and how he plays it. So fantastic. Okay, well, you mentioned it beforehand, so I think again it's probably best that we do discuss the most recent regional. So the last regional in the Paradox Rift format, I believe, is that correct? Because I think we've got is it LAIC next up, which will obviously be the day after or the day of Paradox Rift becoming legal. So I'll just share my screen so that everyone can see. So Toronto, the past two regionals, both held in North America, were both taken down by a Canadian. So it's very apt that the Toronto one in Canada was taken down by a North American. So again, in terms of player base and player numbers, the numbers are just getting huge. You know, over 1,500 people, so 1,500 masters playing the game, and Miraidon Flaffy won. So JW Creole took the win. He also took out a fly in the final as well, which I think is one of the most clipped parts of the final.
Took 7 prizes at the end.
Exactly. So I mean, obviously we'll talk about the whole tournament in general, and also the top 8 and any surprises. But just realistically looking at JW's list, this is, I think, I'm not sure if it was yourself or someone referred to them as the Mahomies. It seems they've got this list down to a T now, and they make little tweaks. Like obviously the beach court was always quite pivotal, I thought, in their list, but now they've changed it for Collapse Stadium, and it's perfect. It's perfect for them.
Is the Collapse Stadium new? Because actually, I don't think I've noticed Collapse Stadium recently.
Yeah, so it was beach court. So I'm pretty sure Jesse Parker pretty much ran. I'm not sure if it was 1 or 2 beach courts in his regional final. But he was pretty reliant on the beach court, and then obviously I know they're a testing group together, and I think this format as well is so prevalent to judge path, so they went more of a path heavy build, but with the Collapse Stadium, which I think it was great. It was a great meta call, really. But Joe, given obviously you're the professional here, obviously looking at the list, is there anything again apart from the collapsed, or is it just pretty much the Don doing Don things?
Yeah, I really like the list. As you can see, that they've tweaked it along the way until it's got to this point. So this feels like the end point as like the optimal 60, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's really close to what I played, so a lot of decisions I like, obviously. I still kind of question the Super Rod. That's kind of like the weirdest card to me, but they've just recently added it. They basically cut a Raichu to maybe like steal some space, I suppose, and it means they can reuse attackers if they have to like research away aggressively. Yeah. There are situations where like your hand is blocked by a research, which is kind of weird. But this means you don't really have to worry about that as long as the rod's in like the bottom half of your deck. So that's really cool. And the collapsed, I think, is mostly just a tech for Lost Box, which is one of the matchups you're trying to dodge traditionally. Yeah. So having charms, carts, and a collapsed, hopefully you can like undo their like multi-prize turns over like Sableye and Cram and stuff. So it gives you a fighting chance at least. And if you're expecting mirror, you can Arven for Forest Seal Stone for collapsed to actually bounce a path, which is actually relevant. So if you're not playing any Stadium Bounce to path, you can just lose mirrors and like lose to Tina and stuff. So that's also a nice card.
That's another thing I noticed as well, is obviously the Forest Seal Stone has slimmed down to 1. I believe they used to play 2. I'm always a bit dubious about slimming down to such short and low counts, because if you prize, it's a nightmare.
I mean, they have a lot of one-offs, right? They already play like 5 one-off Pokemon. So
yeah, very, very, very true. Although I am actually a fan of the one Raichu, because I always found that a lot of the times when I played Don, I used to always get Raichu from my hand or the prizes, and it's like realistically 200 HP. It's a bit brittle. You know, when you use Raikou for the draw, or you use Raikou for the quick attack. You know, Raichu wants to be your big finisher at the end. You never really want to place 2 Raichus down, so I always felt that was a redundant card. But then obviously it's good Ultra Ball fodder as well. So, but yeah, no, brilliant. So again, fantastic result for JW and the Mahomies. So again, Miraidon is not going anywhere. A big shout out to the second place contestant, so Demetrius, so Demi, as Bert's TCG calls him as well. I think they're best mates and they do a lot of testing together. But it was really, really awesome to see so much positivity on Twitter, a lot from the UK community, all backing Demi to go on and take the win. So Demi was running Gardevoir EX, and obviously phenomenal achievement, really, really well done. But I have not seen Guardy brick that bad in a long time.
It was so hard to watch.
Both games was rough.
Yeah.
It was really, really rough. But I think pretty much I think this is just Turbo Toad without the Luminion, basically. I'm pretty sure we've
without Toad.
Without Toad, yeah.
Without Toad.
I mean, what's your thoughts, Joe, on terms of the lack of Luminion, given that certain things the worker, well, I suppose Luminion doesn't work against.
I mean, this is more like the Brent Tonneson list, right? I think it's one card away from Brent's, where he's flip-flopped Ultra Ball for Candy. It seems good, I don't mind Luminion Forest Steel Stone as a package, but if you're worried about more while trapping and path and all this other stuff, Luminion's not actually an out for you. So I understand the logic behind this list. I played a decent amount of Guardi as well in this format. I do like the work account being quite high. I'm definitely a fan of it. So really like the choices going on in the 60, and it's not too different from what we've already seen be successful, so it makes sense. And by the way, Demi's just like a really quality player. He's going to win a regional like in the next couple of years. I pretty much have no doubt of that, so it's just a matter of time for him, I think.
No, definitely.
I really like the 2 collapsed stadium as well. I think it works. I think it works better if you're playing Luminion, because you're going to want to at some point Luminion for whatever you want, put the Forest Seal Stone and use that to get the collapsed, and then that's what it's for. Then you have the other one for, I guess, getting away a Gardevoir or a Zacian or something. But yeah, I do like the collapsed stadium ×2, but I think it would be better with the Luminion. I don't know if I would just play one if I'm not playing the Luminion.
It's more for prize denial, though, isn't it? So if you've got stuff that's damaged on the
he's playing the Mew, I suppose, as well, and that's a liability. That's the Luminion liability.
That's basically the slot,
Yeah.
But I think, as Joe mentioned as well, it's also pretty good against Lost Box. It limits that down. For that. But no, Demi's obviously. I've spoken to Bert about Demi quite a few times.
He gasses him up every time.
He does, definitely, and rightly so as well. Bert's is definitely the hype man for him. But obviously, like I said, it was really good to see the actual outpouring of support for the UK community, all rallying around a UK contestant. So it was fantastic, and like you said, I without a doubt I see Demi just moving onwards and upwards. But kind of finishing out the top 8, we've got Azul with Charizard EX, we've got Christian with Colourless Lugia, we've got Hermione with not Arc Gudra, this is just a Lost Box Gudra, and then we've got Jake and Grant with Chen Pao, and then rounding out the top 8, we've got Dylan with a Lost Box. So I mean, you couldn't ask for a more diverse top 8, really. It's quite encouraging, really, to see in terms of this meta. You can play anything. I don't think there's a definitive best deck in format anymore. I think
it's say how open the meta is, and it just shows. It just shows it's top 8.
No, definitely. So we'll just have a quick look at Azul's list. So Azul was playing Charizard EX. Pretty sure this is just the list now. It's pretty set, the 60, I'd say. It just works really, really well, unless it bricks, if you're me playing it in a challenge. The one question, actually, Joe, I do have for you. Myself and Alex had quite a large conversation about this last week, was Entei V or Delphox V. I lean towards Entei. Alex definitely leans to more.
I put 2 Delphox V in my list.
I would go Entei, I think, as well.
Yeah,
just for the fleet-footed.
Agreed. Yeah. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I think when you're playing the penny, I think the Entei makes the most sense. Just for it almost becomes like a tech card against Lost Zone bots for an early pressure play. But the Delphox, because it's played in so few Charizards, it also has that surprise element to it where you can just win games immediately off of it. So I understand the want to have a Delphox in here as well. You just kind of you have to change the list a little bit more, I think, to accommodate the Delphox.
Yeah, I put an extra energy in because I realized I'm going to be Lost Zoning 2. I took out the Radiant Charizard. Yeah, I just like the I always miss it when I'm trying the Entei version. I think, oh, I could just take two prizes because they haven't got a Manaphy down. So I was like, well, I could just take 2 prizes if I had a Delphox, and I didn't. So I went back to my Delphox.
If you play 2 Delphox, why do you play 1 Entei, 1 Delphox?
Well, because I end up prizing the Delphox and then needing it. So I play 2.
Fair enough. Okay, well, yeah, again, I don't think there's much really to say about Charizard EX in terms of it's Arvanzard. Arvan's becoming a really, really important card in this format, I believe.
Who'd have known? We were all saying,
I kind of
Flames
glossed
came
over
out.
it, it won't see much play, but
Obsidian Flames came out and Arvan was reprinted, and we were all like, why is Arvan getting reprinted? Why? We don't need more Arvan, but it turns out we do. And I've got 8, and I'm quite happy.
I definitely do think we'll start seeing I think Arvan, it's in future decks, it's going to be a 4 Arvan now, because it just, again, especially if we lean towards a more of a path based meta with so much coming out in Paradox Rift that relies on abilities, I definitely think that path is going to become more prevalent. If he already is anyway, and then with Arvan, I just think it's your out, it's your Lost Vacuum, it's your Forest Sealstone, etc. So I think there's going to be 4 Arvans in a lot of decks going forward. But yeah, I mean, overall, Charizard EX just Arvanzard is still performing, still getting results. Then we go over to Christine's Lugia list. Now I actually, I apologize. I thought it was colorless Lugia, but it's actually single strike. Yeah, I mean, nothing really to say here in terms of they've actually, I mainly usually in Lugia see the 2/2 split of Mesagoza Collapse Stadium, but they seem to have just gone for a strong boss count, a strong Iono and research count with the Rad Serena, but overall it's a good deck that works. Although we did see a big strong jump in popularity for the colorless build, which I actually, Joe, I messaged you over the weekend just before my cup saying, was it Radiant Charizard, or what was the Luxray? That's it. Yeah. I ended up choosing the Luxray and not using it once. So that's about right. But I mean, it was quite interesting to see, because again, I think in the previous regionals we saw so much colorless Lugia, especially in Lille as well, obviously with Patrick coming in top 4 with colorless Lugia, to then all of a sudden see a shift over to the single strike again, which seemed
strange,
really, really gone. And I'm not going to say dead and buried, because Lugia is never dead and buried, but what do you put that down to, Joe? Sorry, I mean, in terms of the swing, or is it just the fact that it's a good deck and it works? It's just it's just consistency.
Yeah, I think in the first couple of regionals of this format, there was so much Charizard hype that this was like the inferior build, I suppose. But we've realized that every deck is like 8 to 10 or like 8 to 12% of play. So you can take a loss tactically to matchups and it's just like fine. And we know that this is traditionally very good against the other decks in format. So taking a loss tactically to Zard after it whiffed top 8 in the last 2 regionals seemed like a pretty good call. And putting the Urshi back in as well is probably respecting like Duraludon and stuff like that. So this is obviously just still a pretty good build. You just accept that Charizard is a really bad matchup for you with this approach.
Yes, yeah, no, definitely. So then moving over, obviously we've mentioned Hermione beforehand. Obviously Lost Box Gudra with the Baby Zam and the Spiritomb. I like this list a lot. I like this list a lot. You obviously mentioned, Joe, you wanted to play this. Is it still in the pipeline, or is it kind of now on the back burner that Paradox Rift is probably going to take precedent?
So yeah, Rift stuff changes a lot. I'll probably play 59 cards of this list to my cups pre-Rift in the next couple of weeks. Because I think Goo's really well positioned. I just didn't play Vacuum in my list. That was basically like the only change I had.
What did you play instead? Sorry, out of curiosity.
I played an Iono, so not another Roxanne, but an extra supporter.
Okay.
So pretty straightforward. But yeah, I really like all the choices. Spiriting really well, position, Zama very strong to balance the Chen Pao matchup out and stuff. So really, really good build. And I think underplayed for this format for how good it actually is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, actually, to be fair. Like I said, I played Goo to EUIC, and I just think it was I made some stupid decisions. I was still young. I know EUIC is still this year, and it was only 6 months ago, but I was young. I was younger then. I was naive. I made some stupid decisions. I played a V-Guard energy in it, even though obviously just to try and attach it manually myself, which it came off once and it got me a tie with a Guardi EX. But I mean, overall, I didn't play enough Lost Box to justify playing it in a major tournament. So all my testing beforehand was with Miraidon, and then got cold feet with Miraidon, went to Goo last minute, and less spoken about that, the better. So then moving over, obviously I mentioned we've also got 2 Chen Pao lists, so Jake and Grant, if I'm correct. Yeah, this is the barrel. This is essentially Turbo Pao, isn't it, really? I mean, it just burns through. I actually played this list at my locals on Monday, and it just finds what it needs when it needs it.
Yeah.
You know, the Pokestop, the 4 Pokestop, you just get everything, and it just works really, really well. The question I'm probably going to ask you, Joe, is what's stopping this taking a regional? Because it's been so close, and Grant,
we always say this. After, I don't understand why it doesn't win everything.
Chen Pao is my nemesis. I always lose to Chen Pao in tournaments. Like, the reason I chose Lugia, colorless Lugia build for my challenge was it's a good matchup to Chen Pao. But unfortunately, I bricked and I took the tie. But I mean, it just seems so good. It seems so powerful. It seems like we've got the list now. What's stopping it? What's that last hurdle?
Chen Pao is stopping it.
I mean, it's still a fragile deck. It's still massively combo based, right? Its win condition is within its combos. Like, can you get 6 energy for a monster Hailblade quickly enough? Can you get Cross Switcher Cologne in like a reasonable window of time before things get knocked out? You know, even though you have all of these great lines of play, you're still sometimes crossing your fingers on turn 1 Pokestop hitting something, otherwise you're fizzling. So plus, like,
not Iridas.
Right.
A lot of things just hits 220 so easy.
So I mean, like, this deck has probably the highest ceiling in the game, but also has like a very, very low floor. So it means you get best of 3s in pretty quickly, but you can just lose any best of 3 to any person if your deck is, you know, working against you sometimes.
Definitely Chen Pao doing Chen Pao things. Definitely. So then I think it is. It's just been refined now, and it just works. I think Grant's is pretty much the exact same 60. And then moving over to Dylan for Lost Box. Again, Lost Box is going absolutely nowhere, and this is the turbo build. Again, this is just your pure opinion, Joe. Obviously, we saw the final in Lille had quite an interesting build of Lost Box, with obviously running Cross Switcher, which I quite liked, actually, to be fair. I did quite like it. This one obviously is a bit more of a traditional build, obviously, but with running Town Store. And I mean, and obviously Clara as well. You know, I don't, sometimes I see Clara, sometimes I don't. Mainly see Clara in the is it the Kyogre build, I'd say. What's in terms of what do you think is the better deck? That's quite an open-ended question, really, because both of them are fantastic decks. But what's your preference, Turbo or Kyogre?
It seems like they were just expecting different things. I think Kyogre is probably the better deck, but the player agency is, you need to be flawless in like a lot of games. So I think Kyogre is probably played correctly the best deck in the game, but it's just so hard to do that for every round. Plus, you can get messed up by random selects in late game scenarios that it's just so difficult. But for the two most successful, sorry, just to cut in, the 2 turbos that we've seen, this one is playing the double Bravery Charm Town Store, so definitely like a tech card for the mirror somewhat, but also for colorless Lugia, where you can just put your Dragonite or Raikou out of range of their attackers and just blow through a board state. It's actually really good against Charizard as well. If an early Dragonite gets established with Bravery Charm, it's really busted. Whereas the Cross Switcher Cologne thing is like more helpful for the mirror match and for Guardian, stuff like that. So it seems like they were just expecting different decks in the room, and they pretty much just got the call right on the day.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've dabbled in Kyogre Lost Zone, and I've never got a Kyogre off. But sometimes you don't need to.
I think there are some decks, Kyogre included, that are just they're just a trap, and you think, oh, you see someone's tier list, and you see, oh yeah, Kyogre's tier S. I'm just going to build Kyogre and bring it to a tournament or something. And you just can't.
It's not that deck.
Yeah, I think to an extent, Gardevoir's in that.
That sounds like you at Liverpool, Alex.
It is me at Liverpool, and I played Lost Box, and I wanted to play Mewtwo Reunion, the one with the Gengar, that just moves all the damage counters, unless you can one hit KO it. You don't. I ended up bringing Lost Box, and yeah, I'd only been playing for a couple of months, and didn't go well. So yeah.
No, definitely. Well, that's, I think, unless there's anything else you want to touch on in terms of Toronto, apart from the fact that obviously it was a well-received tournament. There was, again, no drama, which is good. It seems to have improved on that side. I think last time we spoke, Joe, there was a little bit of drama. Wouldn't be Pokemon TCG without it. But it seems that we are obviously steering clear of that now, which is good. So we do have a couple of weeks break now. So by the time this episode releases, we are a fortnight away from LAIC. So what we've started doing now for regionals and internationals and ICs is our guess of what's going to win. Now, this is going to be quite difficult because LAIC is going to have a raft of new.
Anything.
But it's not binding. It's not binding anyway.
No one's actually got it right. Yeah, I don't think.
No, yeah.
That's less pressure then.
Yeah,
you might say Mew if you just.
Well, I just say Mew every time.
There you go. That's
it's not a bad bet. It's not a bad bet. So, obviously our conversion rate's not the best, but in your opinion, what deck do you think is going to win LAIC?
I could go in so many directions. Oh my god. I will go with Gardevoir as my choice.
Okay.
Playing it safe.
Kath, what do you think?
You.
Well, Fusion
and
or
one
DTE.
of these days, I'll be right.
Well, you have been right.
Fusion or DTE?
Fusion, because everyone's going to be playing that Spiritomb.
I think you might be right. And Andy?
I don't know. For me, I'm gonna play it safe and say Turbo Lost Box.
Okay, Alex.
Yeah, I was going to say Lost Box, Turbo Lost Box, because that's an easy choice, because that could include any of the cards from Paradox Rift. You literally play any of them. But okay, if we're being, I think Turbo Lost Box with Iron Hands. I think Iron Hands could. I don't think it's the Doomsday, and we're going to talk about it, but I think it's good. I think it'll be good in Lost Box. So I think Lost Box with Iron Hands will win. I think it will.
I really want to say Gholdengo, but I don't think
I want to say a new deck as well, but
yeah.
I'm feeling Mew as well. I am feeling Mew, unfortunately. Nah, Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon. I'll go Roaring Moon.
Okay.
I'll go Roaring Moon. Yeah. I've just shot myself in the foot, and definitely my conversion rate still remains on the floor. So discussing, obviously, we talk about Paradox Rift. By the time this episode releases, it'll be officially Paradox Rift release day. So woo for everything. But we've still got 2 weeks again until it's actually legal. So, but we thought, whilst we've got, as I've mentioned, the Oracle of Pokemon TCG, in our opinion, we thought let's discuss the format. Obviously, Joe's been producing fantastic content on his channel and doing a lot of tabletop gameplays, but we thought we'd just have a look at some Japanese results with the Raging Surf, and I can't even remember the name of the other Japanese set. That's awful. Paradigm Shift, is it?
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Ancient.
There you go. Yeah. completely got all that wrong. So we'll have a look at Paradigm Rift. Yeah, that's an old one. Anyway, I thought they would have a look at some decks and obviously get Joe's overall thoughts and opinions on the upcoming change in the meta, and also the cards that he if you've been watching his content, you'll definitely know what his answer's going to be, but what kind of decks he thinks are going to be really the outliers in this set. So I'm going to pass over to Al because he's got all the lists.
I do. So I'm going to share my screen. So what I did, actually, I didn't note down their actual placings in their Japanese tournaments, but I did note that all of them were either winning or top 8, top 16 in their respective tournaments. So good lists, high placing lists. I try to find a good variance of each archetype. Ultimately, each variant has a Lost Box version. So I included it, but it's fun to see. But yeah, I thought we'd start with Roaring Moon. This is one of the 2 decks, this in Iron Valiant, which I think I'm probably going to go in on. But this is more I would say a straight Roaring Moon. So just relying on the Roaring Moon and its setup cards, but also including the Morpeko for the pivot, which more recently a lot of decks have started to include free retreat cards for the pivot, like most notably Miraidon now. Even God of War uses it sometimes, even though it doesn't need it really. And obviously Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant will definitely. But yeah, it's so, and Pidgeot EX, it's so useful. I didn't realize how useful pivots were until I started using them. But this Roaring Moon deck includes 4 Roaring Moon, Squawkabilly, Radiant Greninja, Mew, Luminion, and the Morpeko as its support Pokemon. What do you think about this deck in particular, just the straight one? Is this something that you think would be best, or we have other ones with Darkrai, and then there's the Lost Box one as well? But in terms of Roaring Moon, what are everyone's thoughts?
I'm going to start. Oh, okay.
Yeah, go on, Joe.
It's probably direct that, yeah.
So it's a really interesting one, because I think the success of this deck is going to be which build gets the turn 1 going second attack the most frequently. So I could imagine a list like this gets it done pretty consistently. There's also just like Moltres energy switch builds, the Galarian Moltres, which I think is super interesting. You definitely want to have a 1 prizer, so having either Morpeko or the Brute Bonnet. I think either of those are really good options. The Bonnet lets you hit 230 as well with poison, thanks to the Ancient Capsule. And I think that's actually massive, because it's actually just for Iron Hands really more than anything else, because you don't want to Frenzied Gouge into a deck that plays Iron Hands, because then they'll just take a 3-prize KO back on you if you damage yourself. But also they can just hit you with a 1-prize Mon, and then you're going to be hit with Iono and you have to find boss. And these decks play like quite low boss, or like you saw there, cross switch accounts, right? So they can stump you with that. And because this deck plays no defensive cards really, it plays like 1/2 Iono maximum, you're pretty much all gas, right? If you miss an attack, or like only have to take a 1-prize KO with a 2-prizer, that's when you just crumble and lose. So it's going to be quite an honest deck, but you're basically trying to set your stall out and say that you're winning in 3 or 4 turns or whatever, and it's just like down to the opponent to see if they can stop you doing that. But I think this is going to be probably the most popular deck, if I had to guess, for LAIC. I think a lot of people will gravitate to this because it's low to the ground, aggressive, consistent, and it has just within 2 attacks. Just within 2 attacks, it covers so much of the format. So it's a strangely versatile card, even though you attack with like 2 different things.
I think what Andy said as well is that everything hits hard for 220. The fact that this can hit for 220 with the discard of the stadium and not do obviously any fairly easy, do no damage to itself, is a massive benefit.
It can beat 290 hit points, so it can beat the other racing decks, which is huge, I think.
I actually did some testing against this last night, actually, and I just could not get over how fast my opponent was able to power up. Firstly, for the turn, he went first going second, so he was able to get an attack every single first turn for himself, because all he would do basically was, like he said, just put Roaring Moons down. He would just burn through his deck, He'd Pokestop away loads of energy because it was always energy. He'd then Squawk and Seize. He'd then attach for turn eventually, Dark Patch onto that, and then Professor Sardas onto it, and then all of a sudden Escape Rope, and you're like, holy crap, he's hitting 220 on his first turn. And 3 energy initially, when we first looked at it, felt so out of reach. But my God, it's not. It's not. There's so many tools. And then again, like you were saying about the Ancient Capsule as well, all of a sudden pushing that up to 290 health, that's some serious, it's a seriously big knockout needed for the retaliation. And again, it can also take out anything early as well. I know you don't want to really do the attack, which obviously leaves you essentially with 30 HP, but it can. And if your opponent's got nothing else on board, no Mew, VMAXs, no Charizards, no Lugias, nothing else ready to attack, etc., that is perfect. And it can definitely you guaranteed it. Yeah,
that's the only thing that would scare me about this deck is if you whiff the tool and they're just returning a knockout for potential more prizes than
yeah. But like you said, the Iron Hands EX of some 3 prizes. The only difference in this to the one my opponent played was didn't play the Shining the Celebrations Mew. He played the actual Mew EX as well, which again was able to, he literally, again, another pivot, but also a draw. He was burning his hand so quickly and so low. He actually needed 1 energy for the turn 1 knockout, and he had 1 draw off restart, and he got it for turn. And it just gets it. And we've not even discussed about Earth and Vessel, but the main I think MVP for this is the Professor Sardas is just incredible. It's such an amazing.
I think any card that accelerates energies is always super powerful. Dark Patch, Professor Sarda, like it's very good. It's very good.
What are your thoughts on the Darkrai? Have you had a look into that, Joe? Sorry, in terms of because you will have so much energy on board as well, and then again, Darkrai's actually abilities again even more discard.
So it's weird. I actually like it for like 1 prize matchups as well, because you don't need that silly damage threshold. You can just punch with this guy, and he's naturally bulky. But you can just see even more items with this list, and it gives you some on board Iono protection, because you've even got those cross transceivers, so you can get like a boss or a Roxanne back from the bin, which is really cool. And obviously cross switches like a monster combo here, so you're actually not sacrificing much, and you gain a V-star power, and I think that's actually really nice for the list.
No, definitely.
Are you ever worried playing this list that someone's going to just pull out a Lost Vacuum and take 2 prizes and then take another 2 prizes?
Yeah, that is my worry. That with
on Roaring Moon.
I
mean, you don't knock yourself out. You don't knock yourself out. You only put 200 on you, right? So.
Yeah, you're on. Yeah.
So you're on 30, or if you've got if the capsule does get removed, you're still on 30 rather than 90.
I mean, if you're worried about that stuff, I think like Manaphy is not always in these lists, but I think is really important because otherwise your opponent can do like knockout Mew plus a damaged Moon or this, that, and the other. But a Jirachi could be good as well to protect you from Sableye. So I think those tech cards might be weaved in at some point.
And I guess the decks that you're most worried about that doing to you is probably Lost Box, and you probably wouldn't want to use the big attack.
No,
anyway.
you don't have to, right? You just sit there as a big dude.
Yeah. Alex did mention to me a card, and I disagree completely with it. He's pretty determined that it works in this, but what's your thoughts on Emergency Jelly?
So it's actually interesting. I will play it if I play a Town Store build. I've mostly been playing Pokestop builds.
Yeah.
But with Town Store, I think 1 Jelly is really good because it boots you out of hands range and means they can't just punch you with a 1 prizer. So I really like it in that list. I would only play 1 copy, but I think it works in those approaches.
Yeah, and I think Alex just shown as well there. The Lost Box variant plays the Jelly.
There's always a Lost Box variant. But yeah, I tried it way back when Gardevoir came out, and I thought it would be good. But the problem with it in Gardevoir is it required you to survive an extra turn, whereas this one it procs on your turn when you do damage to yourself. So I think a one-off. I think with Town Store, I would play that, to be honest, just for the extra bit. Depends on the matchup, I suppose. If you're playing against Pokemon that are doing more than 150, you might as well not. I guess a lot of your cards that you're playing are techs for a different matchup. So yeah, it can work in some and not in others. Is this the counter catcher? This is the counter catcher, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good card.
Yeah.
Boss and
Especially when it's
Iono,
broken.
Boss and Roxanne and Boss. Ugh.
Plus, with this, like, you can counter catcher to stall stuff and Sableye for prizes and leave
Yeah.
them with like a 1 or 2 card hand, and that's just filthy with a stack as well. So
Yeah. This is basically almost like Lost Giratina. The Roaring
That's
Moon is
the
similar
shell,
to
right?
Giratina. Yeah. But it's a basic.
I think it
And
very
you
much
can do it
could
more than
overtake
once.
Tina.
What-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it
Sorry?
spells the end for Tina then?
No, I think cross counter catcher's busted for Tina. I think it's still fine. Plus, just like unlike Tina's helping you consistency wise in the opening turns, which Roaring Moon is just a beat stick, right? So
Yeah.
even though their attacks and like their function is similar, they'll actually play quite differently, I think.
If you had to play one of the decks, this or Tina, which would you?
I would probably play Tina because I like the option to have Path, Disrupts, Counter Catcher, Sableye. I mean, this list is doing all those things as well, but you also have Abyss Seeking, which is keeping you in games.
Yeah,
That can help you. That can win you games early game.
It really can, yeah. It's really important to note as well, actually, that these Japanese lists they play best of one, so often their lists are optimized for getting the most consistent. And we tend to maybe put a few more techs in, a few more spicy things in, because we know we've got best of 3. All right, well, I think are we done with Roaring Moon? We can move on to some Iron Valiant. So Iron Valiant with Medicham and the new Xatu 3/3. Natu is the pre-evolved, right? I wanted to get this right. Natu and Xatu.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think so. I'm back and forth whether I want to build this or want to build Roaring Moon, and I'm going to build both, but I think I'm probably going to, like, if I wanted to bring it to a challenge or a cup, I think I'd probably go with this. But I don't know whether Xatu or there's the Urshifu line. I think I'm probably going to go with the Urshifu, to be honest.
I wouldn't play a 3 prize because that big 3 prizer is just target. You're going to come up a lot against a lot of decks that can just hit that no problem. Really easy.
But I think you want to you're just sprinkling a little damage, and they take it out of Emax and they're thinking, oh yeah, I've only got 3 prizes left, and suddenly you just take 5 prizes in one with all your yoga loops and everything else, and
I highly recommend watching Joe and Jack's video.
Yeah, we just started watching it before.
Jump out. It's scary good.
Yeah.
Now I know. I will preface it by saying one game Jack did get 2 VIP passes in his opening hand, but it is. I want this deck. I'm definitely building this deck. I think this over. I like the Xatu, but I'd probably leave it up to Joe to confirm a bit more confidently. But I prefer the single strike version. Or the rapid strike, sorry.
I quite like the Xatu version.
So the Xatu feels like more of a deck, right? You actually get to play the game if they actually start evolving their stuff, whereas the rapid build is like trying to just wipe your opponent off the board before they even get to start the game. There'll be matchups where it doesn't come off, or you're like a piece away, and then you just kind of fizzle. Whereas the Xatu build actually has some mid game where you just attack with Valiant, which is actually a really good attacker, right? Because with the booster capsule, it's 220. Plus you have Tachyon bits
as well.
Things in range as well, which is going to just naturally happen. And this list is really like limited on attackers, but you could play Mew EX to help you out against like Charizard and stuff like that. You could play Shadow Rider V, which I think is pretty good in the deck. If there's not enough Jirachi around, so like you can go more versatile with the Xatu, which I think is really cool. But this list is a nice hybrid actually, because it actually has the Forest Seal Stone +1 Rapid Strike energy. So if you are going second, you can still have that pop off and take a game away from someone, which is pretty naughty as well.
Do you think specifically at LAIC we'll ever see the Iron Valiant turn 1 donk with Tachyon bits on a lowly mana fee?
It's really strange. It depends how the next couple of weeks go in terms of metagaming. I've started to see tier lists and stuff, and the Japanese data starting to come out, and Valiant's like not super high, and everyone is pretty high on Moon, which makes Valiant, like that's one of Valiant's hardest matchups, right? Because they're better at training into you than the other way around, and you can't really loop anything if they're playing their bench correctly. So having a pretty high tier difficult matchup isn't great for Valiant, but if people are like still going to be playing the Chien-Paos, the Guardies, the Lost Boxes, then this is like a really powerful deck, and you can easily see donks with this. Like it's not that difficult at all, to be honest.
Yeah, I
think
think
with all the dark decks running around as well, I think it's time for Meowscarada to rise up. It's Meowscarada's time. I should have said Meowscarada might win.
How much hit points does the little one have? What's the highest hit point cat called?
Sprig.
Yeah, what's the highest hit point Sprig? That could
I'm
be.
Gonna say
it had 70. It had 70.
They've printed a fair
chance.
Yeah. I really wanted Meowscarada to do well.
Toad Scroll, it's all about Toad Scroll as well.
It's all about Toad Scroll,
yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
I forgot what I was going to say, but moving on. We have a Lost Box variant as well, of course. Just more sprinkle for Sableye. I mean, does Lost Box really need it? Like, you're going to be switching. You want to be switching your comfies, don't you? I don't know. I don't know about Lost Box.
I don't.
This plays a beach court as well.
Yeah, it's weird because you're taking out the Forest of Stone package, so you don't get to 7 as quickly as you would with the V-based builds, I don't think. But this is trying to be both Raikou and Dragonite, right? Just in one thing. And you gain space by cutting energy. Energy is actually quite good in the deck because it's good with Greninja and just attach retreating and stuff. So it's a bit of a weird combination. I feel like this card is good if there's just not a huge amount of Jirachi. But if people are teching Jirachi, then this just feels like a worse build than what we already have.
Yeah. I feel like Iron Valiant is a combo card, and it needs to have the deck around it that can combo with. And I mean, obviously Sableye is just completely ridiculous, and it would combo well with Iron Valiant, but I think it probably needs another EX, another something.
You don't really want to just have a 2-prizer floating on your board either. You're trying to map out. Yeah, exactly right. So you're trying to make it as hard as possible for your opponent whilst you do these setup plays, and this doesn't really help with that.
No Jirachi so far, have we? Jirachi? No.
They're not really evolving decks.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, that is true. This one is, but still no Jirachi, but it doesn't need it.
This one has bench space for Jirachi.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Not even playing Manaphy.
Not even playing Manaphy, actually.
That is quite greedy, I would say.
Yeah.
So a Chien-Pao without Manaphy, but with a counter catcher and no cross switches.
And the hands, the big hands.
The big hands, yeah. I'd at least play 2 counter catchers because they're playing 4 cross switches. So they're playing 2 boxes as well, I suppose. I think Iron Hands is going to be pretty oppressive in Chien-Pao. I think it's just going to. It's Greninja can take 2 cards. If they put down Manaphy, then Iron Hands takes 2 cards 2 prizes rather. It's just I think it just makes it even better. I don't think there's a downside to playing Iron Hands in Chien-Pao.
Definitely the best partner for hands. I mean, there's like a lot of fish, there's a lot of squawk, so there's a lot of ways that you can gust and take 3 prizes with this guy, and then you can have 1 prize board states and just knock out something with a Greninja or a Bax or whatever, so you can make sure you're winning on prizes. And you get to cut some clunkier cards as well, like playing 2 Earthen Vessel and just like an extra energy. These are good cards to see in the opening turns because it's helping you just in general draw cards and thin the deck compared to Crossies and Colognes, which are like hell to see in your opening hands for this deck, but are required for its current win cons. So like you just become more streamlined and you have the same game plan of making games 4 turns, I think.
Well, they're not actually. I haven't actually counted the amount of item cards. You kind of want to be playing. If you're playing Pokestop, you just want to go all in on the item cards to maximize. You end up just Pokestopping.
I actually still like Cross Switcher in the deck, ironically. But you can cut Colognes at least. Or this one's choosing not to, but you can, right?
Yeah, I actually did test again. I tested this again last night against Roaring Moon. Not this exact
with Iron
list,
Hands.
with Iron Hands in the deck as well. Yep. Same split in terms of energy. Actually, I think it was 8 water energy, 1 lightning energy, and 1 DTE. Again, it was another Japanese list. Played 4 Pokestops, didn't play the Cologne. It was. I also played 4 VIP pass because I don't see the point in playing 3 personally.
You should play
it's one for a novelty or 4 for all in. I played twice. I played 2 games with it, and I didn't get the Iron Hands off once. Yeah, I was really gutted because that was my win con on both games. It was essentially boss up a Squawk for a 3 prizer, or boss up a Radiant Greninja for a 2 prizer, and I just didn't get the cards I needed. I quite like the pokey gear. Actually, I didn't play that, but I think that could have been an inclusion because I was playing 3 Earthen Vessel. I also note as well that the Baxcalibur number has increased as well to 3, which I think is very, like, especially if you're playing Pokestop as well in tandem with it. The amount of times I've Pokestopped away a Baxcalibur and my Super Odds prize or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
So,
when I played you on Monday, I'd prized both Baxcaliburs.
Yeah, it's rough. It's really rough. So
That's harsh.
Yeah.
I do think, like you said, Iron Hands is definitely the best partner for Chien-Pao. I just wonder how often it is going to come off. Probably more often than again. It was a new. I was still learning still learning it, etc. I suppose with time,
I think
we can improve it.
I guess you've just got to find the lightning energy, and that's your only way of finding it is with the earthen vessel.
Or you can Pokestop and pitch it and
Guess
get
you
the
go.
superior.
Oh yeah. Discard it. Yeah, exactly.
Discard it against one of the best.
Discard it. It's the best
Yeah.
thing because it's there. You're guaranteed it's there. You know it's there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. True.
Yeah. But the Barrel's the savior of this deck.
I mean, we're still Chien-Pao, right? You can still just
Exactly.
You're really worried about Iron Valiant decks as well. I think that might be one of the things keeping us in check in the format.
Good. I'm glad something's keeping it. Then we're just dealing with Iron Hands in this one. So Iron Hands Lost Box. So this is it a turbo variant? Yeah, there is. Yeah. There is a turbo Lost Box.
Yeah.
I think Lost Box is also a really good partner for Iron Hands. Mirage Gate, we've seen, has no problem with getting 4 energy on a Pokemon. So they're playing for Mirage Gate, which is understandable. I think, to be honest, if I was going to play Iron Hands, which I probably will, I would probably play it in Lost Box over Chien-Pao. I just don't want to play Chien-Pao. But I'd probably play it in Lost Box myself. What do you think about this one? Avery, 2 Avery. Is that Avery?
Yeah, it's Avery.
Yeah,
so it's so that the opponent can't have Jirachi Manaphy boards, right?
Yeah.
So you unlock your Sableye, or you let yourself Greninja, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What I really like about Iron Hands is that exactly. If they want to keep both of them, their board state becomes terrible, right?
Yeah.
What I like about Hands is it flips this deck's matchup into Lugia. If Lugia's still going to be around, you have a really good time against it now, which Lugia used to just kind of farm Lost Box. But now Iron Hands can completely turn that around because they're always using Fish. They can get knocked out just with an Arm Frost anyway, because you can gate out and attach as well. So it's really cool. I tried this out with a Raihan build, thinking that could be an extra attachment for a Hands. You can just use 1 gate that way. It's still hard to make it all come together, I think, and you are still making sacrifices, but I think Lost Box will still definitely have a place in this format, and for sure. I still feel like Forest Hill Stone Vacuum is the most consistent way to get a turn 2 gate, so this build is looking pretty promising.
I can just imagine Lost Box mirrors with both having Iron Hands just going boss Iron Hands, boss Iron Hands.
It used to be so complicated with all your switch cart math and Sableye and all this other stuff, and now it's like, well, I got my Iron Hands.
Yeah. You'd just be doing the 2-2-2 prize mapping. Cool. And then I think I've got a third one. Then we've got the Miraidon one, which is I think what people thought originally. Chien-Pao list did come out very, very early. People started putting 2 and 2 together, but also you have the electric deck, and I to be honest, ironically, I think this is probably the worst way to play Iron Hands. I agree. Whenever I've played I don't play much Miraidon, but whenever I've played against it, I always find that the opponent puts all their energy for Raichu and then kind of just flops and is not able to get their energy back. So I think putting 4 on Iron Hands is also quite risky for them. Yeah.
It's a big ask. This is one of the most high roll Iron Hands, right? If you go first, you can turn attach, you get like a Mareep down or something, and then suddenly you're threatening turn 2, and that could just be good enough sometimes, but you always need to have your backup Flaffy. This deck's playing Raihan, you can play EXP share as well, but you're right, it conflicts with Raichu, which is you kind of need both of them to work if you want to race Charizard and if you want to race Guardy. So they actually aren't that good. It's actually the best thing about Iron Hands is that it makes your Lost Box matchup really good now, right? And that was one of the worst ones for Miraidon. But I'm kind of in your camp where I think Path is still essential for this deck. So I prefer Tapu Koko in Miraidon because it's just more efficient and cheap to attack with, and you can have better win cons against the evolving decks without having to just like high roll Jennies in the opening 2 turns, I think.
I think it's similar to Zapdos EX, where it came out and it was like, oh well, that's just going in Miraidon, but actually don't really see it that much.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyone else thinking of building Miraidon, or?
I think leave Miraidon the way it is. It doesn't need Iron Hands.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs Iron Hands personally. Just as
you probably could just put a 1-of on it and for the Lost Box matchup. You don't have to use it for. It's like Drapion in Lost Box. You don't.
That's the thing. Yeah, you've got a lot of 1-of attackers, right? That you just bung in for situations, and maybe that's what we're doing wrong is thinking that it's like you're trying this every time now.
Yeah.
But just having the 1-of option flips a matchup, and that could be good enough.
Yeah. Cool. So moving on, we've got Gholdengo. And Gholdengo, I didn't find as many. I did still find 3 different ones, but they're very, very similar. There was no Lost Box one because it was just Gholdengo doing Gholdengo things now. Previously it was Chempal doing Chempal things, but there were Caesar has made its way into to most of the decks actually. Or one of them that I found. But I think Caesar is a really good inclusion into Gholdengo. I think Gholdengo is Chempal just without the extra steps, just without Bax Caliber. Plus it draws, which I quite like.
Definitely a cool deck.
Yeah.
Scyther with free retreat is actually massive, and being a 1 prize that stays out of Iron Hands range is also just like really important, I think. So definitely seems like a good partnership. I'm surprised. I've seen a lot of the Gholdengo lists in Japan because it's been out in, like you said, Jamie, Raging Surf for so long. Their support accounts are always so wild, and I still haven't found out the best one. Like this one's playing Quad Worker and 2 EA, and I'm
that was
like,
unbelievable.
Oh, that's so wild, right? And its ratios aren't that good, but it's playing triple Pokestop. Like there's a lot of weird stuff going on in this list, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's because they're just worried about bricking in their best of 1, probably. They just want to play as many as 1 card. What are you going to say? Sorry, Jay. I'm
just saying I love this deck. I think this is the deck I want to play the most. Again, I said I was testing last night. It was this deck versus Roaring Moon, and I did not lose a game to Roaring Moon because essentially, if they had to, for example, if I used the TM Evolution version, so I had a TM Evolution, so I was able to essentially get either 2 Gholdengo EXs ready for next turn, or a Gholdengo EX, and I actually ran the Bibarel as well, which I felt was really good because thin your hand, get 5 new cards, and then you coin bonus for 2 if it's an active, 1 on bench, and then you just Pokestopping. I just thought the amount of draw, you just get it, and again 6 energy needed for 300 damage. The amount of times I was able to get 6 energy every single time, it's just it wins the race. And if they, for example, take out, if they do, for example, especially Roaring Moon. If they do take that single prizer out first turn, you will always win the prize race because you just do 2-2-2 to win that prize race, whereas they need 2 Gholdengos and then another single prizer. But you're already running. I think you'll win that race.
I think Gholdengo is massively favoured into Roaring Moon because actually the HP is quite relevant of Gholdengo 260, where Roaring Moon will have to use its big attack. It'll knock it out, but then you can just then you can just do a little attack with Caesar. You don't even need to.
You just need essentially 1 energy or 2 energy if it's using a capsule. I didn't use the cross switcher. I used more boss. Again, used 2 worker, not 4. Avery, I do like that, and Iono. But again, Earthen Vessel in this is just phenomenal. And again, Pokestop you're able to get. I also did play this list. I know plays 11 steel energy or metal energy, and I actually played 3 psychic, and I played the fog crystal, so it's very, very close to Mahone's list. It just
feel
works.
like you could probably drop a worker or 2 and maybe take in a couple more items like letter of encouragement.
I don't think anyone outside of Japan is going to be playing 4 workers in their Gholdengo.
You'll be surprised. I'm sure there's someone at an event and they're running.
It's got a great
match in
against Chen Pao as well. So.
I'm sure there was someone running 4 Burnets in Lugia at tournaments recently. So you can say that, but yeah, we can definitely see. Yeah, but I do love this deck, and I think it just races ahead. But again, probably going on to the second version of it with the Basculin and Basque Legion. I know this is one that you've been testing with, Joe. How have you found this engine?
So it's not playing the supporters that you see in front of you. The reason I kind of like the Bass is because of Irida. Because you have such crucial item cards you want to cherry pick, be it VIP early or your superiors or those letter of encouragements or earthen vessels. Those are like the crucial cards you need to cherry pick. But also just the Basculin is so good at getting you into the game when you go second, right? And there's nothing better than getting quad gimme ghoul or loads of gimmies and Greninja ready to go for next turn. So that's kind of the main idea, and the Basque Legion just then becomes cream on top because it's similar to that Sizzle where it's forcing that 1 prize more, and you have Iono to just ask the question of people, which is really nice. So it's kind of like a low maintenance way to make the deck flow, but it's similar to the Arvin package that you've already tested with, so it's not, it won't feel too different, and you can still play the barrel, or you could play Milotic as well, which also Iono proofs you.
Yes, of course,
so that's also kind of cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's I really like this deck. I really do like this deck. I don't see a lot of TMs in any of these lists.
No one's playing the engine that I thought they would, which is really interesting. But you have to remember that they've been playing it with Raging Surf, so they may haven't like done the tweaks yet to the new format. So they may just be like set in their ways with quad worker.
Cheryl is interesting. I'm not really sure why.
Well, we have Churro now, but I think it was the idea was for Lost Ones, right? You just sponge and pick up and draw again, ideally.
Yeah.
And again, you mentioned Roaring Moon before. If you get hit into by Roaring Moon for 220, if they don't want to do that knockout and want to be a bit more clever with their plays, Cheryl, all you're doing is discarding 1 energy. And you're getting all that energy. The amount of energy retrievals and superiors. Exactly. Yeah, no, definitely.
Back anyway.
Well, exactly. Cool. There's the letter of encouragement for Andy.
There's the letter of encouragement.
I think letter is busted, by the way. Like, I think there should be a combination of vessel and letter. I think, but you should lean more towards letter because there's games where you have to 330 stuff turn 2, and you just don't do that with vessel. I don't think.
Yeah. I think there's so many good there's so many good cards in Paradox. It's ridiculous compared to say what we've had in 151 and Obsidian Flames. It's quite nice. Just before we go on, actually, what I actually just thought, I can't remember if we saw Avery in Roaring Moon, but I've just been thinking, I think Avery would be good, not in Roaring Moon, sorry, in Iron Valiant, because I've been thinking of putting the Iron Jugulus in, just as a kind of like, you have your damage counters with the Medicham. You have if you put Medicham and Iron Jugulus on your bench, they're probably going to just put Jirachi and Manaphy because they're like, well, I need to protect against everything. And then you just play Avery, and then their bench is gone.
Same with Collapsed.
But isn't it? Then are they not going to essentially get rid of the damaged Pokemon? So you're also
it's about the timing, right?
Stinging yourself.
Yeah, it's the timing, and then you might, even if they've got the damaged they'd get rid of the damaged Pokemon. Then they've just got Manaphy and Jirachi. Maybe you boss one of them up. Jirachi only works to the bench.
Then Avery.
Collapse then Avery. Yeah.
If they've got a full bench.
Yeah. I mean, there's a different place, but I think Avery. Anyway, we'll have to test it. So moving on to a bit more, I don't want to say rogue, but different kinds of decks. I think these are the main decks that people are caring about. Unless there are any other decks that you thought of before. I think this is probably the. I didn't want to.
Those look like the top tier threats, I think,
Yeah.
from the new set. Yeah.
I didn't want to. I only wanted to go through the new archetypes. I didn't. It would be here forever if we were going through God of War and everything else. So Garchomp, I thought it's interesting. I don't think it's going to set the world on fire, but I think fighting does need a good accelerating card. And I want a reason to play Lucario because Lucario is just a cool Pokemon. That's basically why I put this in. And stage 2s are going to be using the TM evolution as well. So I don't know. Maybe it would be viable. Who knows?
I think it's tough out here. You're playing 2 stage 2s, a stage 1, and like you're still worse than Guardian Charizard, I think.
Yeah. Well, moving on from that.
Such a shame. Such a shame and such wasted potential. I love
It's fun. It's cool.
I think many people overestimated Garchomp when it first got released, but I think or even estimated it normally, and it's actually not as good as even that. But we'll see anyway. But then there's other packages of with playing with the Curlier, one with Gardevoir and with Iron Hands. I put that there because I thought it was funny that he was just playing Iron Hands. How's he powering up Iron Hands? So that
Garchomp attaches through the 3 fighting, then you turn attach to the lightning.
But after getting a stage 2.
Oh yeah.
That's why it's tough.
Yeah. I thought it was funny. So we can move on from Garchomp, I think. I also put in a Mewtwo. These are the fringe ones at the end. I also put a Mewtwo in because I love Mewtwo. Mewtwo is one of my favorite Pokemon, so I kind of want it to be good. But it seems weird playing the Calyrex VMAX with the Zato. It seems like a bit overkill. I don't know why but these are all winning decks, by the way, in tournaments. So I've not gone all the way down to like just random decks. These are still winning in tournaments. So
these are like League Cup equivalents, basically. They're like 60 to 80 people most of the time. Sometimes a little more than that.
They call them Gym
City Leagues, I think, these ones. Yeah.
They've been Mewtwo dirty.
I don't know why you wouldn't play 4/4 Xatu and then like a thinner Shadow Rider. Yeah. Because I get that when you're not against dark stuff, this attack's pretty good, but like, why would you not play the quad Xatu first?
I guess that's your draw engine as well, isn't it?
They both draw though, right?
They both do
the same thing. Yeah. Plus, Shadow Rider can't attach to lightning stuff. It can only attach to psychic stuff. Whereas Xatu can attach to your Mewtwo. You have the camo poncho, I guess. So maybe they're just maybe that's where you just load up like 10 energy on 1/1. And you can't touch that one, and then you're just bombing everything.
Yeah.
It's just such a shame they've done Mewtwo dirty. Such a great Pokemon, and
he's not been. He's had enough cards. He's had enough. Cards.
Not in recent format. Or V Union, I suppose that was quite good, but difficult to play. But yeah, no, I was like, I'm gonna make this work. And I just looked at it when it came out. I was like, no, it's definitely not working. It's definitely not.
I even looked at the 151 Mewtwo and thought, oh, I could make this work. It's not. Mewtwo. I do want because I actually haven't been playing that long, so I've never played in a format where Mewtwo has been super dominant. So I just want a good.
To me.
Yeah, I just want. I started in Astral Radiance.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind a Mewtwo. I know you had some busted Mewtwo cards in the past, but never.
Yeah, all we've had is busted Mew cards.
Busted Mew cards.
Shining Tail, Mew VMAX, now Mew EX.
I remember when Pogo came out, and I was like, oh, that Mewtwo is really good, but then it just wasn't.
Yeah, it's good in fairy.
I was gonna say I've got a stamped version of that if anyone wants it. I can't even sell it.
And last but not least, I can't even remember what my final one was, but we'll see. It was Skeledirge.
Oh, okay. I like Skeledirge. I like kind of. It's like a glass cannon, isn't it? Almost.
I think Skeledirge is going to be a deck that you like the look of, but actually, it's a stage 2 that, like Joe said, isn't as good as Guardy. I think. Well, and Charizard as well. The Dark Charizard. Yeah, but it is. I think it's promising.
The coolest thing about Skeledirge is that it has a 90 hit point basic, so you don't just get wrecked by Valiant, which is actually kind of cool. I think it works well with Arc as well, because you can push your turn 2 Arceus attack if you Candy Skeledirge to actually knock out like EX Pokemon. Because the damage buff isn't just like to itself, it's to anything. Doesn't matter what type they are, you just have to burn a fire from hand, right? So there's some more weird supporters going on in this list. But I feel like an Arc Skeledirge could be like a okay thing where you have like late game Radzard and stuff like that in the list. It could be kind of cool.
Mela.
Yeah, so that's like a
Who's this guy in the forest?
That's Norman. It's a terrible card. It draws 2 and 2 more if they're an EX in the active. It is so unbelievable.
Why is that in
bad.
the deck?
It's the exact same thing that I think about Mela, though. I think what you said in your set review, it's like I want Raihan. I've got exactly. It's like I want Raihan. No, this is Raihan at home. You know, you're never gonna want to play.
Raihan rotated it.
Like the deck even plays the barrel, so you can do that draw up to after a Raihan once you've got what you want.
Exactly.
It's so weird.
Oh, mental. Mental.
But yeah,
I think they probably just didn't have the card that they actually wanted, and just had to fill. Like, we've got 59 cards here. What have I got?
Mela.
It's encouraging that a list with Norman and Mela did well, though. It's a good sign for Skeleton.
Remember, we probably said this about Arvin.
Yeah.
I don't think Arvin's not as bad as
he's not going to. Norman's not going to be like Arvin.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
Norman remembers. He'll remember this.
But Mela, what? So you draw a fire from the discard into your poke. You attach it.
It's like right hand. Yeah. It's the same as right hand.
Draw to 5. Oh, is it 6? Is it? Sorry.
Yeah. Up to 6.
Yep. No idea. Yeah.
But Skeledirge is cool. Like it's like Meowscarada in many ways, and that it's a cool ability. It's a bit of work to get it going. You have to throw energies out of hand as well. So there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
It's like an objectively okay card. It's just a lot of hoops you have to jump through to get it doing its thing.
Yeah.
They're desperately trying to push these starter Pokemon, aren't they?
Also, really metal typing is really good because it boots Valiant as well as Chien-Pao.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just waiting for when we get our equivalent of Inteleon Shady Dealings line.
I don't think anything's going to come
never again.
Like
you say that, but we'll see. Right. Well, I think that's it for in terms of the Japanese list. So again, I think the probably to wrap it up on Paradox Rift, we spoke about Paradox Rift quite a bit. But from my side, Joe, what deck do you think is the best coming out from Paradox Rift?
best new deck or like best new deck? Best new deck I think is probably Roaring Moon. Just like objectively the safe choice is just like being a good racing deck. But there has to be something with Valiant because I feel like it has game into multi prizes and basic stuff. Or sorry, like single prize decks.
Yeah.
So and like if you want Zati, you have draw power. If you want to play rapid, you have just like bully donk potential that can just wreck people before they get to play the game. So there has to be something between those two. Those are my top new decks, I'd say.
Okay, brilliant.
What about top decks? The top deck. What will be the top deck?
The best deck? It's so weird, right? Because it's so many moving pieces still. It feels like it's going to be another meta like the one we've just had, where there's still likely like 8 to 10 viables. And as things creep up in popularity, then the counters can push them back down. So I don't think it's going to be like a 20%. This has to be the best deck. Play it or counter it. I feel like there's going to be another cycle of this was good last week, therefore could be an uptick in XYZ or whatever.
Which is good for like balancing the meta, I guess.
Definitely. Yeah. I think we've come off one of the healthiest formats that I've played in for many years. And even with some of these really crazy looking cards, they seem to play quite well into the stuff we already have. So I think it's going to be another like rotating meta of like flavor of the week and then making tweaks to make those changes with the amount of tech cards we have in the game and stuff like that, and the amount of consistency we have in the game. It's so high right now that you can make all sorts work, I think.
Okay, no, I definitely agree. I'm looking really excited. I'm really excited about this Paradox Rift meta. Last time we did have you on, Joe, we did discuss terrestrializing and how poor it was, and we said obviously something's going to be announced at Worlds, and obviously the big reveal was Ancient Future Pokemon, which seems very similar to kind of Rapid Strike and Single Strike, etc. But then the next big thing was Ace Spec cards coming back. So obviously, I don't think they're going to be in our shiny set in January. I think it'll most likely be the next big set in March time. I believe March, April.
I think it's our EUIC set. Yeah, I think it's April.
Yeah. So A-Spec, are you excited for the return of them? Obviously, it looks like they're not.
Forgot about A-Spec cards.
They're not even changing Terrestrialize. I still don't understand the point of Terrestrializing, but they're not changing that. Yeah. That's not benefited anything. But the A-Spec, a lot of people were pretty hyped about it.
Yeah. I think when we even talked about terrestrials, they didn't even have the type change yet, so at least there's that, which was interesting.
Maybe in one day.
But not to put it down on anyone, but I actually hate A-Specs. I think they're a really bad mechanic in the TCG because we had A-Specs in the past, which were such big power spikes in the game that if you just hit yours first, or if your opponent prized one and you didn't, you can just have a massive advantage. Or if it's just in your opening hand, it can be like a huge deal. I want them to be very careful about how they print A-Specs. There were some that were very healthy and good for the game and provided options and variety, but then they printed Dowsing Machine and Computer Search, which were by far the best two A-Specs that every deck would play one of those, and they were just such big consistency boosters that by not seeing yours in your opening 20 cards compared to someone who did, it just was a real feels bad. And obviously prize cards are terrible mechanic in general in Pokemon, but when you can't access trainer cards, and if they're integral to your strategy, that's also really a bad feeling. So I'm tentative about them. I hope they're different to the first time they were printed, but we've seen with Radiance that this can work. When we have Hisuian Heavy Ball and Basics, it works because it ticks all my boxes of everyone can search them out so they can all get them turn one, and we have Heavy Ball in case they're prized. So I really hope A-Specs have a similar style thing in the game that can make it pretty healthy.
That was probably going to lead on to my next question is, do you reckon they're going to reprint some of the old ones, or do you reckon there is going to be some new ones as well?
I would be so bored about Comp Search. It just discard 2, get any card from your deck, right? We already have Forest Hill Stone, so we don't really need that for a good few years. So I hope they're more deck-specific style cards, or just things like VS Seeker, which is a broken card, but as a one copy is fine. These sorts of things. I would much prefer them to be like that in A-Spec form rather than the ones we've already seen in the past.
Well, I'm looking forward to them because you can tell.
Yeah, I don't want to put anyone off. Obviously, I'll still play the game. But
we're the newbies in terms of obviously I've heard of A-Spec, we've not experienced it. So again, it's good. But we're leading into it. So I think probably my last question, really, unless anyone else has got anything, is just more what's next for you. Obviously we discussed last time. Obviously you were commentating and on some of the regionals, and then obviously, as you mentioned earlier on in the podcast, is you obviously competed at Lille. What's kind of next for you? What's the rest of your season looking like?
Super busy. I have to really grind out some cups because I'm at 60 CP or something. So I really need to get a move on.
Still ahead of me, but yeah.
I'm gonna be attending every European regional and special, either for commentary or for playing. I'll always accept commentary if ever I given the chance. So I'll be at all of those. So it's a very busy season. I'm also planning a trip to NAIC, which I haven't done for many years actually.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah.
So because I feel like I only need to spend a week in Hawaii, whereas Japan I wanted a big bulk of time to be out there. So I feel like I can do
as well.
And because it's a new location for NAIC, it would be cool to have 2 America trips basically. So that's basically my plan for the season. Just a lot of playing, commentate when I can. Hope to get the invite, but it's actually a real challenge for everyone this season, I feel like. So we'll sort of play that as we go.
We did discuss that on the podcast when it was announced. Obviously, 250 last season, 500 this season. All of a sudden, cups and challenges best. I know they've increased it in terms of obviously to best top 6 results, best of 6, I believe. So we actually thought potentially people might struggle, and they might actually change it, but you look at some of the leaderboards and there's people who have only gone to like one regional or one or two regionals just done incredibly well, and obviously grinding out the cups and challenges have got their invites already. I do see the change. I don't see any. Personally, in my opinion, I don't think they're going to change the limit.
I think it's a question more after like we have a few more regionals under our belts, right? It's going to be a threshold that they're trying to hit, no doubt, and I think that's going to be in their mind. So I think after the likes of Liverpool, we start looking at those sorts of numbers and how far away people are, that sort of thing. I think that's where that conversation's probably more worthwhile. But like you say, the invite's hard. You probably need to play like 12 cups and go to like at least like 4 or 5 of the regional / specials if you realistically want to give yourself a chance, or you just have to like power spike and IC, and then it's like given to you on a platter, right? But
you need
can't
a really
plan
result,
for that. Yeah.
But I do think I know again we are predominantly very positive about the whole community, the player base, and obviously the Pokemon Company International. But this year feels more than any other year. If you can afford to get to the ICs, you will get your invite.
I don't want to say that.
No,
really tough
tournament. You have to still do well.
And most ICs, ICs are hard, man. ICs are really tough tournaments. There's thousands of people there, right? And people try hard it because the prizes are so insane as well. But weaving in at least an IC, I think, should be part of your world strategy for sure.
Yeah. No, definitely. Agreed. Well, I obviously wish you all the best for the upcoming season, and obviously we're gonna keep watching your content, and obviously hopefully see you in Liverpool as well.
So if we get tickets.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed they increase. Like
well, at least I've got my Arcanine account set up this time. I'll have a chance.
Too long didn't read. Basically, Kath went to log on for Liverpool and didn't realise she had to have an Arcanine account.
I was fuming.
I think she had one, but
I had it, but I'd not put in my Pokemon
she'd not linked it.
ID or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Andy was sat refreshing like, there's tickets, and I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Oh no.
Well, fingers crossed you get it. Yeah. No, definitely. No, brilliant. Right, well, I think that kind of wraps it up for this episode. We usually do the section RTFC, which is read the flipping card. I actually don't have one organised, so does anyone have one? Or
Norman, let's read Norman.
You'll never have to read him. You will never have to read him.
You'll never need to read it
unless you're playing in Japan.
I think the new one that I had to like read 3 times was Jirachi doesn't protect your active, so that's actually quite relevant for Valiant stuff. So that's a genuinely pretty handy one to remember.
Oh, thanks for saving us, Joe. Appreciate it.
No problem.
We're organised. I assure you of that. Right. Well, again, I just want to thank you. Obviously, Joe. Thank you very, very much for spending your time coming on, chatting with us. Obviously, we really appreciate it. If people want to keep in touch and obviously speak to you, see your tweets or X's, whatever they're called now. I don't know if that's applicable. Or what's your content? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Thanks. Fun as always to chat. OmniPoke on YouTube. I'm actually going to start streaming from tomorrow when the new set drops as well. So Team OmniPoke on Twitch. And then it's Omni_Joe for the spicy tweets if you want to see them.
Definitely, I definitely highly recommend that. So then our own plug. So we do have a Twitter account, or an X account. It's at Training Court. We also have an Instagram account which is at Training Court TCG. To watch us, we try and release every Friday. The best place is on YouTube. So again, just at Training Court TCG, or just type in Training Court TCG on YouTube. Again, please like and subscribe. We obviously all really appreciate all the support. If you want to listen to us, we are on Podbean, which is the trainingcourt.podbean.com. That also feeds into Spotify and to Apple iTunes podcast, where if you just type in Training Court TCG, you'll find us. Again, I want to thank Joe again for joining me and us, and also thank you for Andy, Kath, Al for joining me again this week, and we will catch you all next week.